Hey, how's it going? Welcome to a Universim tutorial. Today I'm going to be covering some tips and tricks to help you get started and get you ready for some universal domination. So we're going to start a new game on a huge planet. This isn't unlocked until you get to modern age, but don't worry, it's pretty easy to get there. So we're going to start with the huge one, basically because it's got the most resources. So we can live off of Mother Planet for quite a bit longer than you could on a default. I'm going to turn up natural disasters, wild animal attacks, and exile aggression. Keep creator points standard. And we're going to start a new life.
Wake up.
Okay, so now we've got a nice big fresh planet to work with. What I'm going to be looking for first and foremost is the unobtainium. So this is really important, but it's way far away from actually being utilized. So we found our unobtainium, so that's the best part. I'm gonna look around for volcanoes. Doesn't look like we actually have any volcanoes in this area. We've got a lot of flat land, a little bit of oil to get us started, not a lot, but that's not too bad. And we've got a relatively big lake here and a huge lake over here, so this is going to be pretty good for our water needs throughout the game. Alright, so I'm going to place the epicenter down somewhere on this peninsula. I think this looks pretty good. And here we go. Okay, now that we've got our epicenter down, here comes our little nuggets. And what we're going to do, first of all, I'm going to turn off auto research. I'd rather predict where they're going to go. And we're going to start with primitive tools, water wheel. Water wheel is the next very important one. Then going to go with the waterworks and the fire. What we're trying to do is we're going to try to get to agriculture as fast as possible. So I'll let these guys unlock. I'll click on fast forward here. And we'll wait until primitive tools is ready. So now that we have a primitive tools, they need to build a house right here. So what I'm going to do is help them out just a bit. First of all, by clearing the trees. And second of all, by putting those trees into their construction site. I'm also going to go over here, pick up a big old rock, throw that at them as well. So now they have all their resources. I don't have a lot of points, so I'm not going to chuck these guys out. I'm going to let them chop down the rest. And as they're doing that, we'll be unlocking the water wheel as well. And I'll be getting a few more points. So as we wait here, I'm going to take my telekinesis power. I'm going to grab one whale as well. And we're just going to plop it down in their world, and that's going to add 60 food. So we won't have to worry about food for this winter or the next little while. Alright, water wheel is unlocked. So I'm not going to place that down until they're done here. Sometimes they build in nice blank areas, which would have been smart money, but they're nuggets, so they're going to build in the most inconvenient spot possible sometimes. And I'm totally fine with that. So while we're waiting here, as well, is another really important tool is Holy Ground. And Holy Ground is going to say, hey, I want the next nuggets to live way over here. So what I'm going to try and do is get these guys really spread out. So the first house has this whole section to itself, pretty much. Second one has this one. And if I stay on top of it, we can get a really good spread going all the way through here. By medieval age, we should have at least a quarter of the planet covered. Now that they're building this, I'm going to wait until she's done knocking this together. And then we'll get our first quest, the Cupidon quest. And the Cupidon quest is fairly easy. It's very, very straightforward. It's just needing to mate these two guys together. So we're going to have to accept the quest. That'll give us the 20 CP that we require for it. So there's the quest. We accept it. That gives us that extra 20. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my Cupidon power. I'm going to hold control. And I'm going to double click. And that's going to mate them. So you can do that double click with any nugget on the planet, basically. And they will always find a mate. If they're already married, they'll go back with their spouse. And if they're not, if they're single nuggets, then they'll just get married to somebody with that Cupidon power. We're going to let them knock boots for a second. And then as soon as they're done, we're going to get another quest here. So I'm going to accept that quest just so I get a couple more points. And before they get too far, I'm going to get Adi and Elu knocking boots one more time. I'm going to rename Sticky and Stony. Okay, and once that assignment is done, what we can do as well is we're going to go up to grass weaving. So this is going to be our first discovery point unlock here is grass weaving. So I'm going to go into storage, grass weaving, and then we're going to move over to agriculture. So now that they're knocking around, the next important thing that I think is a game changer on this game is the build menu. So first of all, I'm going to press X, and that's going to bring up my quick keys. For everything that we have on the screen, you can see that there's a quick key associated with it. So if I want to open up the research screen, I just press R. Same to close it. The main one I'm going to be focusing on, though, is the build menu. Because, of course, you can go over, you can click this, and then you can click this, and then you can click into a water pump. That's pretty standard way of going, but hear me out. You hit B1, you'll bring up engineers. B2, 1, it's going to bring up a water pump. So I didn't have to go anywhere over there. I didn't have to do any clicks. It was just a real quick press of a few buttons, and we have water pumps. I would highly recommend that you look at your quick keys and you try and memorize some of these things, because it's going to save you millions of clicks throughout your playthrough if you're not even using this. The closest I basically use it for is I'll go into the build menu. If I'm not sure what it is, I'll use that, but I never actually go over here for I always press B. It's just so much easier, so much faster. And I know, like, all my resources, I would do B3, and once they're unlocked, I'll have all these. Obviously this one, you actually have to physically click. You can't, there's no number associated because it's the 11th one, but everything else has numbers. Okay, so these guys are coming along nicely. Hold the wand toolkit, they should be knocking this together. Let's help them out with one more stone. I really want to get these done before winter hits, so that's going to help there. I've got all their stone. Now I'm going to do B2, 2, and that's going to put me in my first reservoir here. And I'm going to prioritize it. And because I've got the points, I'm going to help them out a bit. Both clearing the space and building what we need to build. So now these all indicate that they don't need any more resources. If I had a warehouse, which we will have soon, I would have thrown it in there. We need a few more rocks. Let's get those for them. And a few more. There we go. That should be plenty enough. Now we've got 5 adults working on this. So now that we've got water up, I'm going to go back to Adi. And I'm going to say, hey buddy, you need another kiddo. But he's in that crowd right now. This might be a little tough. Let's see if we can get him. There we go. So they're going to have another kid or 2 if we're lucky. Okay, so while they're going to go do that, she's grabbing a bite to eat. They're going to get this water filled up. And while that's happening, I'm going to press B, 2, 1, and I'm going to put this over here again. And another thing, you see down here, it says left shift plus middle mouse button. So here's another little trick, is if you hold left shift down and press mouse 3, it's going to build you a carbon copy of whatever you're hovering over. So if I wanted to do another reservoir, left shift, middle mouse, and now we don't even have to go into the menu. If you see something on the map that you want to do another one of, you just do left shift, middle mouse button, and then you're good to go. Now, just while we're on this as well, is you'll see snap modes here. So if we want to put buildings on the road, you're going to hold control down. It's going to snap to these roads, making them very, very close together. I don't particularly use this very often. If you like it very tight and together, then that's a cool way to do it. But I kind of like it a little more natural, a little bit more loose. Doesn't have to be right at the edge of the road. Give them some space, and give yourself some space, because as you're building out, there are going to be new buildings that you're going to want to double back and put in old areas. So don't mess up your own spaces there, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, the next thing we got going on is I'm going to do left shift, middle mouse button, and build that there. I'm going to prioritize that. We're coming up on, everything's getting colder. It's going to get wintry soon. That's okay, because we've got some water reserved, and we will have more very soon. But I'm just going to keep going back and forth of building water pumps and then reservoirs for this first year. We have enough food. We'll have enough water. We're not using any water for anything right now, so it's all just drinkable stuff. But you never want your nuggets drinking out of the lake. There we go. Getting drinks for everybody. And gotta find Adahi again. So I'm gonna go into the nugget menu. And to find any particular nugget, you would click this blue circle. And then you would go to their location. And that's going to pop you right over to where they're working, whatever he's doing. And I'm going to give him another Cupid on there, get another kid popping out. That water pump is up. I'm going to do left shift, middle mouse button, and we're going to build another reservoir. And you're going to see that I do overlap a lot of these. We're going to have a lot of water and a lot of supplies all the way throughout this game. So having a good solid foundation of water right off the bat, where you never run out, is it's a pretty recommended strategy. I'm going to save some points because I think we're going to need to use telekinesis on a house pretty soon. I could actually force that to happen, where I'm going to take Sticky and I'm going to get him falling in love with whoever. Who is it? Kosuzu. Okay, so once they fall in love, they're going to need a house. So backbreaking work, we're going to accept that. And we just got to find the house. There it is over here. Right on the edge of the holy ground. So that's going to be good enough for that spot for me. So I'm going to take that holy ground and I'm going to put it over here. So that way we have the next house being built is going to be there instead of this area. Okay. Get some trees going. I think it's 3 trees and a big rock if we can find it. There's a big rock right there. And that should be it. There we go. We got another house. Okay, we are getting 5 minutes out from agriculture. So hopefully by the next spring, we should have agriculture. Okay, now that they've done that and that, I'm going to do another pump. Prioritize that. Something you should look at as well is how much lake water you have. You can click on the lake itself and it's going to tell you a lot of the details about it. So at 45,000, we're at 100%, 0.1 water a second with 3 pumps. So it's just useful information to know. And you'll be able to tell visually if a lake is sinking, but a lake this big is usually going to last quite a while. Okay, as that one's getting built, gonna go back, left shift, middle mouse button. And here's a good point to touch on some roads as well. Is there's a lot of roads in this game that look like crap. There are a lot of ones that are cut off. They just offshoot to nowhere. And it's kind of up to you whether you want to keep them or not. Usually I try and get rid of them. And the way I do that is I just build something right on it. And then that way it'll never be built. This one will still offshoot, but this one never will be built. And I'm fine with that. I think a nice tidy grid is achievable in this game. It just takes a little bit more work than just laying a straight line down. Because getting straight lines, pretty rare. But you can also look at what kind of path you want to take for your future city. So you can kind of look at what roads are the straightest, what are the main ones, which ones are you going to be using, which ones are you going to cut off. Yeah, and this block system I think would look really cool with all these roads in it. But sometimes I just have buildings that are too big, so I'll just build them right in the center of these 2 blocks instead. Alright, agriculture is up just as winter's hitting, so I'm going to hit B3, 4, and that's going to bring up a farm. And my first 2 farms, I think we're going to have a grassland one and a forest one. So you see it goes forest, grassland. So I'm going to try a forest one, because I don't know yet which one's going to be the best one, so we'll try one of each. A forest and a grassland farm. And to duplicate as well, as you hold shift. And then you place a building, and the blueprint will stay in your hand there. So if you want to place multiple, just hold shift. So I'm going to let these guys work away on this one. And we should get to winter, through winter with the farm in the spring. Okay, now that our research is done, I am going to start getting into more of the basic researches here. And I like going with hunting and watchtowers because we can get one of these 2 as well. I usually give them a bit more might. And I assume that helps with their carrying capacity too. I'm not exactly sure though. It might just be for strength. Couldn't tell you. But having the hunting and watchtowers, that's going to be really good for fighting crime and creating crime, unfortunately. But we'll get these guys, and then we'll double back into hospitals and cemeteries. Okay. Our farms are slowly getting built here. Help them out with a few trees. Yeah, they should be able to get the rest of them. Okay, and once these farms are underway, we're going to wait until spring to actually assign anybody to them. But the next thing, as soon as this one starts getting built, there we go. Now I'm going to build my first engineer's hut. I'm going to press B11, and you'll see it's got a really big area of effect over here. But same thing where I'm basically going to be overlapping these. So I'm going to build that engineer hut right on this beginning circle here, and then we'll start building out from here. You can tell that this one's already been, it was neglected long enough without engineers. So what I'm going to do is rejuvenate, hold control, and hit that house. Now rejuvenate, you can click on individual nuggets, or it's an area effect. If you hold it down and hold left click down, it gives you a wide area of targets, and you'll see in the bottom, in the center there, this is how many regenerate targets is going to actually rejuvenate. And because I have 10 people and only 4 of them working over here, what I'm going to do is build another pump, left shift, middle mouse button, and click over. We'll have another pump, and once that's done, then we'll get another reservoir going on over here. By that time, we should have some nuggets moving in over here as well. Okay, with the engineer's hut done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign Adi and Elu to this for a couple reasons. One, it makes them very strong over time, and also it's easy for me to find them whenever I want to mate them together. So generally, all I have to do now is, instead of going into the nugget menu, I can go to this one engineer's hut, which I know who's assigned, and I get them mating together there. Now you'll see in this menu here, you'll see these equal or neutral traits. So these nuggets are just neutral. They're not doing anything special for anybody. every once in a while you'll start seeing traits pop up over here. This one is gourmand. So I believe that means that they eat more. This nugget loves to eat and gets hungry 25% faster. So gourmands aren't particularly a trait that you want to breed into a lot of your society because you're going to have food issues with that in the future. So something that you want to consider as well is I wouldn't particularly eliminate these folks quite yet because we're really still struggling on numbers. But eventually, if you're starting to find you're getting a lot of lazy and weak nuggets and they're breeding more and more lazy and weak, it could become a problem where you sort of want to just breed workaholics, which is the purple circle with here, sure-footed, which are very fast, nibbler, doesn't eat much, and immune, right? A bunch of these traits we're going to have to get to through cloning, but the ones that pop up naturally, we'll actually have to monitor and make sure that we're having the best nuggets in our civilization. Okay, now that it's spring, we're going to assign a nugget, any nugget at all, and we're going to choose just the manbro fruit crop just because it's the only one we have. Now, I'm not going to assign a crop for this one yet because I'm going to wait until this nugget gets into the job, and then it's going to come up with a quest of find food discovery quest. So we're going to go find some different variations of food. Just going to wait for that quest to happen first. If you hire your first farmer in the winter, they will still give you that quest in the winter. So just be aware of that, where you won't be able to find your fruits and everything until late summer or late spring, sorry. Okay, watchtowers is up and out. Huge muscles, good. Okay, so we have those ones. We're going to go back over here to primitive cooking. Let's get our first restaurants, and let's focus on getting a little bit beefier on our water systems as well. Okay, so that residential is growing on the outskirt of this. So what we're going to do, same thing. I'm going to go a little farther out now. And that way it's keeping residences spread out. So everywhere where we have stuff to work with, we're going to have residential nuggets to help. All right, here's our food discovery. So it just says we need to go find some food. And I'm going to try and collect one of everything. So devil's lettuce, which is an herb. That's going to be enough to complete the quest, but I'm going to get all the stuff that we can find out of the way right off the bat so we don't have to think about it anymore. Just have to find them. And you can see here it says food 0, so it hasn't grown yet. So we jumped the gun just a little on some of these, but I can see that some of it, this panda brain, has grown. I got healthy melina over there. Now a good trick as well is if you're lost, just press H to go home. And we'll chuck that in there. And I saw some healthy melina. There's more manbro. More panda brain. There we go, healthy melina. This is usually one of the highest yielding fruits or veggies or whatever you want to call it in the game. So what we're looking for is, because I'm in a forest biome, looks like panda brain is going to take it here. So we're going to switch over to that. And I'm going to try and find a couple of the grassland ones, crystalline crabapple. And there we go. And already got devil's lettuce. We're looking for some juicy acorn. Oh, we got our bloody diarrhea fruit. Press H to go home. Put that in there. And so we're looking for juicy acorn. It's going to be in the forest somewhere. Melina. Sometimes it's a little tricky to find, but you search around long enough, you'll find it. And plus, that gives the nuggets time to have a little break, so you're not running them ragged. And here's our planet cracker battery. This is way in the future. We're going to be dealing with that. And juicy acorn. There we go. All right, H to go home. into the farm. And let's see what kind of crop we're looking at. Looks like crystalline crabapple is going to be the winner on this at 22 yield. So let's put crystalline in there. And let's start building more reservoirs. So it's not going to break my heart if we're not completely covered, but I do like having a pretty solid system going on over here with all our water. And you'll notice that little indicator here saying that we are out of range of engineers. So if we put one down here, we're going to have to build an engineers out there as well. But right now, I'm just going to build that one. We have a lost nugget. So we're going to accept that quest. And the easiest way to find this lost nugget is go to their house. There's only 2 houses right at the moment, so it's pretty easy. If it's not these kids here, odds are it's this kid over here. We pick them up with telekinesis and press home and drop them on the ground there. That unlocks Cupidon Park. Okay, so we're at Ancient Burial. So we do have a hospital, which is B51. And a hospital is going to be super useful. So we're going to actually be building its own very own farm with it. I'm going to kind of put it in a central location. And I'm going to build a farm right across the street from it. In a perfect world. Oh, there we go. I'm going to have a farm. And I'm going to have storage area, which is B33. Okay. And I'm going to plop that storage down there. This is a lot of material for them to be dealing with all at once, but we do have quite enough accumulated. And we're up to 17 nuggets. Not bad. Getting a little faster with the knocking down of trees with a bit more of a force now. But as always, I'm going to keep going back to Adahi and Elu because I want to basically just have as much in the original lineage. Not that it matters a whole lot. This is sort of personal preference. But we're going to hopefully get him. Yeah, he was asleep, but he's going to have another kiddo. Okay. We have a heal nugget. We have an injured nugget. So all I'm going to do is get my rejuvenate and cast over that. And let's assign our first doctor. We have 30 herbs right now, which is going to help get us through until this farm is ready. So we're going to assign a laborer in this and devil's lettuce. Okay, so now this will always only just produce the herbs for this hospital. And with this warehouse, all I'm going to do is store herbs in it. I'm not going to store anything else in it. So we're going to, nope. I'm going to X out all these other materials and just herb warehouse storage there. I am going to start a storage area over here as well. Let's get that sort of on a main street, highly accessible there. And this is going to be a little bit of everything. Now, that's going to be subject to change a little bit in the future, but because we don't have many materials and we don't have a lot of space to work with yet, this is going to be the best bet. I'm going to keep them going. There we go. And we are done with cemeteries as well. B12 is a cemetery. And I left enough space here. At least I thought I did. I really want to make sure that full coverage on cemeteries is a major deal over here. So I probably should have built that engineers a little closer to the road. But let's see if we can do anything anywhere else. as long as I have coverage over this part of the lake, I can always build another cemetery elsewhere as well. So that is going to be good enough for me here, which is still going to keep this road. And it looks like a pretty good road, so I want to keep it. And good. Okay. There we go, our storage is built. Cemetery is going to take a while because that's a lot of stone, but at least we got a spot for it over here. Okay, they've got all that cleared out now. Gonna cut some trees down. They've already stocked that pretty much full. Get our cemetery going on, and then we should be able to get our first eatery up as well. Quick assign. So now we've already got a lazy one. We gotta make sure that that's not getting out of control too early on. Once I get some workaholics and stuff like that, I will definitely start breeding them. And our new neighbors over here, pretty close to us actually, pretty close. That's alright. We'll tap them on the shoulder in a few hundred years. And I try and picture it like a big, constantly growing web. So everything's sort of webbing out as it goes. We want to just make sure that everywhere we're putting engineers' huts, we're putting food, putting everything all sort of in the same areas. And the cemeteries are prime. You're going to really need them. And I would suggest you overlap them a bit. Make sure there's not even a tiny little gap of an area like that, because just nuggets are going to find a way to get infected. So I don't mind having major overlaps on my cemeteries, because especially if you start getting mass deaths for whatever reason, you're going to at least have some cemeteries to cover that. And we got a residential being built there, so we're going to holy ground over to here. So after we're done putting a few holy grounds down and getting through most of the winter, I'm going to kind of rinse and repeat the same steps I've been doing. I'm going to get some farms down, water, engineers, cemeteries, storage, and all the basics. And what I'm going to try and do is sort of grow out so we can start getting over to mountainous regions. That's where our stone refineries are going to be, and a forested area, which will obviously get cut down throughout time, but we'll start planting over there for our planks and our other refineries. That being said, we're going to unlock material refinement. A bit more water. And a bit more water. These are the real basics that we need right now. Everything else is sort of auxiliary, and everything else is for upgrades as well. So we're going to need to get planks and bricks in order to get upgraded cemeteries, eateries, and so on. Next important one is education as well. We're going to work our way over there. And you're going to notice as well is I do not build town halls. I don't let the government assign nuggets to places, nor do I let them place buildings in their own crazy ways, because it just doesn't work for me. I think it's always been a little buggy, a little bit, I don't know, it's just not as fun for me to rely on the nuggets, because I just don't trust them to do what they need to do. Now, if you want to do a government near playthrough, more power to you. You're just going to get a lot of wells or reservoirs and water pumps that you don't necessarily need. And sometimes they'll put way more on a lake than I ever would. I'm probably going to end up putting maybe 2 more on this lake, and then we're going to go move over here and start tapping off of a larger lake. Reason being is that the less pumps you have on a lake, the less the water is going to drain. It's going to rely on natural clouds to refill, and you don't have to use as many creator points, and you can keep everything nicely balanced. We're really trying to keep all of our balances up here, we want to make sure that there's no pollution here. We want to make sure that we have enough trees and water, and overall atmospheric health is hovering well above this line here. I'm going to keep it in that 4th section. As we start growing out as well, we're going to notice that we're accumulating a lot of the really most basic resources, and that can be really useful. It's going to, first of all, take a whole bunch of space in here, but we've got an herb storage and a few storages over here that are just getting slammed with rocks. So what we can do is we can go into our planet filter menu. This is a super useful menu. I'm going to be touching on this a couple times, but we're going to go down to the dangers or hazards and the exiles, and we're going to go scan the planet. Makes it really easy to find these exiles. And we're going to trade for stone, our stone for planks and bricks. I'm going to select over here, and I usually have a rule to make it as easy as possible. So let's say we want to get rid of 300 odd bricks. I'm just going to press 333 here, and then I'm going to go over to here, and I'm going to press 333 again. That's going to max out the amount of we can trade, and then I'll do 333 over here. So we see that obviously our 300 is not going to cut it for all those. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to take that down to 33 and that down to 33. We still have a little bit of wiggle room, so I'm going to do a few more of each until that trade button disappears again, where they're not willing to accept the trade. So it looks like 42 is the number. Typical, isn't it, folks? All right, so 333 stone for 42 planks and 42 bricks. Now that we have that, I'm going to press H to go home. And if you look in our inventory, now we are way down. We have all this warehouse storage space available now. And we can get on a park, our first bountiful bastion. And what this is going to do is it's going to increase happiness, and it's going to combat crime. So when we start getting our wood refineries and stone refineries in, crime isn't going to go all wonky because we got a couple parks to satiate them. So that's the best way to start, and in every age as well. Keep that in mind with exiles. As soon as you go into modern age, which is far down the road right now, but as soon as you go into modern age, the exiles have all kinds of materials that you can use. You can get electronics and fuel and chemicals before you ever touch those plants. All right, this is a new quest. Just bring an animal to the epicenter for some food, so we'll do that. Let's grab any animal that's wandering, any poor soul. And we're going to bring it over here. This is the first time I've actually got this quest, so I should get a little accomplishment for that. Maybe not. I got to aim better next time. Okay, let's go over here again. There we go. And food from the sky. Okay, we have another request over here. And this is for Rasasina is demanding resources. They want 310 stone and 68 wood. And they're aggressive already. But what we're going to do, pretty much I suggest you do all the time, provided that you have the points, is you're going to basically, you don't have to go all the way down to minus 50 here. Let's do 25. And we're seeing that our civilization is still accepting. Now they've changed it to declining. So they're not going to trade these people for anything right now because I influenced them to decline. If you forget about this and they are still accepting, then you will lose that 310 wood and that 68 stone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump it all the way down over here. Make sure that we are fully declined. And that should solve our issue right there. As we slowly expand out this way, I'm going to start looking for where I'm going. I'm going to be aiming for oil. I'm going to be aiming for gas as well once we get there. So as soon as we start unlocking some of the mines, we'll start placing them. And keep in mind that you're going to need a lot of nuggets, 6 people in each one of these buildings. So we're going to need a lot more nuggets. This is a super useful little menu up top as well. If you just hover over the population number, you'll see how many unemployed, uneducated, educated, and a few different stats that are pretty useful. The one you want to keep an eye on mostly, especially if you're not doing town hall, is unemployed nuggets. So at 22, I want to hover around 20 for the first 100 years or so, 40 for the second, and kind of exponentially grow that. So because we don't have a lot, I'm going to keep doing the Cupidon power. I'm going to look around, see if I see any signal nuggets. Anybody with a blue or a pink pylon is a single nugget. We double click them, and they immediately get their single mate marriage. So unfortunately, we did lose Adahi and Elu, because after 40 years, they've got really short lifespans for right now. So our original nuggets are gone. Rest in peace. But we're going to replace them with a few more. So I'd like to get almost one nugget to a year. So at 47 years, I'd like to have 47 nuggets in total. And this only applies for the first 100 years or so, because after that, we're going to get into some exponential growth of things. And we're going to need a lot of nuggets to do everything that we really require to get the civilization up and running. As I go, I'm trying to build farms in sort of community areas. So each area that I'm knocking out, so I've got a residential growing over there. So again, I'm going to move my holy ground over to this area. We're going to start another community. So as things get built, I build around them. So if they're going to build a house and there's no engineers around that house, like this, for example, I'm going to press B11, get up to my engineers, and then we're going to start putting an engineer's hut down here. B22 for some water. And what I'm going to try and do with the water on this particular run through is I really want everything. I don't want any gaps at all. So I'm going to work my way over there. I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to click that down, and I keep my blueprint there. And then we're going to build another one with just a little overlap right here. Okay, so now we've got a bit more food growing. Another thing we're going to need is eateries. So I'm going to press B31, and we're going to start planting some eateries down. I'm going to ignore that fire for now. It's not bugging us quite yet. But the eateries are super important as well, because they give nuggets food and drinks that are going to last longer than reservoirs, and they're going to last longer than just raw food. So some of this may seem excessive off the bat, but you're going to really help yourself in the future by placing a lot of everything. So one farm's not going to cut it. One eatery is not going to cut it. Maybe just to start, but you're really going to need to expand these. And I keep everything as spread out as I possibly can. Sort of, it's looking like a pincushion grid system over here, right? And so as we expand, we keep doing the same sort of communities over and over and over again. So that community has an engineer's hut, has water, has raw food, cooked food, storage, cemetery, and then there'll be a few other things as well in the future. But if you start each community area with that, it will give you a pretty good start. And you should have pretty good balance throughout. And I don't care if water reservoirs aren't on the road all the time. You know, little tiny specks of gaps I'm not going to be bothered by. But I can always build something right in here. I still have 100% efficiency. So that being said, you know, we can use this little gap and keep another piece of water in there. If we look at our nugget menu now, I'm going to search by workaholics, and it looks like we have two. We have a male and a female. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this one out of her job. We're going to take them. Ooh, we got 4. That's good, but I'm still going to aim for this guy over here. Wherever they went. Okay, let's slow it down for a second. And what I want to do is I want to try and make sure that our workaholic trait is as good as we can get it. Like, let's try and get as many workaholic nuggets in here as possible. So an easy way to indicate, just if you're trying to find two of the same type, give them a little indicator there. And I'll look for my other workaholic right over here. Well, what do you know? Isn't that convenient? So in this case, instead of double clicking on a nugget, I'm going to take the Cupidon power and hit them like that. And they are always going to be together and hopefully producing workaholic babies. Now, I've seen these other two as well. So let's do the same thing with this couple. So I'm going to take this Yamatoi. We're going to pick him up. We're going to go find his soulmate. It was right here, which is convenient. So I'm going to do the same thing with the Cupidon. You and you go at it. And hopefully they start creating more workaholic babies. And I found that useful in regards to the genetic lineage of things. If you really focus on getting them early in, especially when there's only a handful of people, 52 nuggets, 52 years, we're right on par. I find that super useful because the more earlier on, the more likely they are to keep breeding into society. And we want our workaholics and our speedy ones and all the best traits that we can possibly get into there. Contraception ban is one I usually use. Happiness goes down, but we rectify happiness with all kinds of parks and everything else. So contraception ban is great as well. That way we don't have to use our Cupidon power as much. Okay, so we have an lack of engineers over here. Let's put this guy out. There's two ways to put out fires. We could use the trickle effect, like this, if it's a big fire, or you can go over to a lake, grab a little bit. This is only going to cost you 5 CP, so you could do this a hell of a lot more times than you can do a trickle effect. Okay, so we're going to rejuvenate this building, and the reason this building is not being taken care of is because we are just outside that circle of engineers. That being said, I'm not going to think about it too hard. I'm not going to try and get it too far out. Engineers are great. It's just another building in the game, especially building on a huge planet. We've got ample space for everything. But I always try and do an engineers and a water side by side. And in this case, it happens to be nicely within that whole spread that I'm actually doing. So we're going to help them build out there. Keep an eye on my holy ground as well, making sure that I'm only getting one residence at a time. And I'm not going to hire workaholics as often as anything else because I want workaholics as laborers right now. That gives them more free time to mate. So for engineers and all the other job positions that I want filled, I'm going to basically use neutral nuggets. Eventually we will be sacrificing the lazy and the weak, but right now we're still just kind of gaining our numbers. So at this point in time, we've got a bit more research to do. I'm going to get on geology and mining and quarries, and then we're going to increase their endurance a bit. So it looks like we're at a good position. We're far enough out. We've got a mountain and a forest range on this side. We've got some forest and mountain over here. So I think what I'm going to do, because the crime rate is going to be low, because of our bountiful bastions, I'm going to start building our refineries. So I'm going to press 4, 2, 1 for a stone refinery. What I generally like doing is putting them near a stony area, which makes sense. I don't really know if that's actually how they roll. I don't know if they're actually going to go for the stone, but I've always just done it this way. And it seems to work out just fine over the years. A bigger mountain would be better, but for now we can start here. And what I'm going to start with is I'm going to do 3 at a time. I'm going to press hold shift, 1, 2, and yeah, of course, and 3. Okay, and I'm going to pause, and prioritize. So that way, as this one gets built, I just go over here and I unpause. This space is effectively reserved for those stone refineries. I'm going to press B42, and I've got wood refineries here. And because stone and forest are hand in hand right here, I'm going to basically try and keep them in the same area. or at least our starting points here. They don't have to be at all. I don't think it matters a whole lot, but I just do it for organization. That way I can see my 3 factories and how they look right off the bat. And if we need any more, we have a little bit of building space right here to actually do that with. So as we saw, I had no engineers over here. So I'm going to see what kind of coverage I'm going to get. And what I want to do is full coverage. So that little gap there, I'm going to make sure that's all covered. And that looks pretty good to me. And then B22 for another water reservoir. But I'm going to build out. Like I said, I'm always keeping this all intertwined. So no matter where we go, no matter what we do, we got water everywhere on this planet for drinking and for storage. Contraception ban, that's great. Now if we take a look over here, if we hover over our water menu, you see how it says 49 minutes left. So when everything is frozen, because we've accumulated a fair amount of water, we don't have to really worry about winter, because winter lasts about 15-20 minutes. I haven't timed it exactly, but around 15-20 minutes. And we'll do the same thing for this small community as well. Keep in mind that working nuggets, they're going to stop work to go eat, right? So if you want them to be efficient, put food right next to their workplace. Put water right next to their workplace. Put all the amenities that you need for them to survive right next to where they work. So when they go on break, they're not walking all the way over here to get some food. They're just going to go right across the street. They're going to eat, and then they're going to get back to work. Once we've unlocked mining, we're going to be able to go B3, 6, and 7. So let's keep those in mind. So B3, 6 is going to be an iron mine, and we're looking for all the deposits that are close to us. You're never going to, well, it's very rare, but every once in a while you get a sweet spot on top of a mountain. So that's as good as we're ever going to get. 3,320 iron on that particular spot there. So we're going to plant that, and we're going to let them prioritize that as well. So our wood and stone refineries are now built, and I'm going to start with only 3 in each, because we only have 29 unemployed nuggets. So I'm just going to get a little bit of stone going in. And at that same time, let's check our quest, the root of the problem. Okay, so this quest kind of sucks, because it's going to kill a lot of our CP, but it's got to get done. So I'm going to zap this guy a bunch of times. And we're just going to wait. This is more of an annoying quest than it is exciting, really. Because what we're doing as well, as we're zapping, we're scaring our nuggets. So I'll try and show you in real time here, but we were at pretty much 100% full. And every time I zap this thing, this meter is going to drop a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this monster, and then I'm going to plant some trees, and hopefully we get back to full regeneration of points, because the farther down the line we are, the longer it's going to take for us to accumulate. On our plus side as well is I am getting schools in. We unlocked that. So as these schools come up, they're going to help with discovery points as well. And just checking, making sure. So I got my residential over here now. I keep bouncing back and forth with Holy Ground. I keep building them as farther and farther out on the reaches of our population here. And you see, that's going to be really beneficial for us in the future, where nuggets don't have to travel very far to get to work, to get to resources. Schools are super important too. We got to make sure that almost every neighborhood's going to have a school in it. It's going to have with the engineers and the warehouses and the water and the eateries, and everything else becomes self-contained. So nobody has to walk very far for any kind of resource that they need. Hopefully just one more blast on this. So we're almost in evil territory here. Okay, good. So now that that guy's done, I'm going to switch over to forestation. And just for this particular example, because we have our wood refineries over here, I'm going to start planting some trees over here. And just take a look at this meter as I plant. Because I have 300 points, I'm going to spend them all. And that's almost all of them. And here comes that rejuvenation. And that 300 points should make it all the way up to there. Okay. So now we're at full recovery again. Just always remember, anytime you're using lightning or any god power that scares them, I'd imagine tornadoes and earthquakes are sort of in that realm. If you use those, just take a look at your temple and make sure that you are still at your max amount of regeneration here. As we get a little farther along, our iron mine's up now. I'll put 3 in there right now just to get a little bit going. As our population grows, I'm going to have enough nuggets to assign to each building, and I never want to overwhelm them. So we've got 6 in our wood, 6 in our stone. That means when they're full, I'm going to unpause the next 2. And also, I'm going to build B6 Bountiful Bastion. And I'm just going to build a few more of these parks as we go. And they can be anywhere you want. It's a universal thing. I tend not to put them in clumps like this generally because I do like it spread out. But for this particular example, I'm just going to have a few parks. That's going to keep the crime down, the happiness up. And as these get built, it'll be combating it back and forth. The next aspect is actually going to be crime itself. So our schools, right now we are rocking at 5 schools. I'm going to put another one down over here. Again, even spreads. That way, all the nuggets across the planet can get to education. But you'll notice our discovery points, I'm getting 25 discovery points out of the schools every 10 minutes. This is basically negating the expeditions. So expeditions, if you're not familiar, is you're going to send a bunch of nuggets down into the pit, and they're going to bring back stuff. Usually it's garbage. Sometimes it's CP, sometimes it's discovery points. Generally, I think it's a waste of time, especially now that we have discovery point generation actually doing well with the schools. So odds are I'm never even going to use this. Another thing I'm never probably going to use, on this particular planet at least, is the black market. Just to touch on how this works, is you do not get a Niagara Falls model or paella or parcels or anything like that. All you do is you get stone off of this trade. I get 20 stone for 35 CP, 24 food for blizzard, 28 glass, and 7 planks for 22 nuggets. So this is another thing I don't generally use. I've had to go to other planets and use it based on bugs, so the trade routes weren't working. But for the most part, I never touched that at all throughout a playthrough. That's about as dusty as my town hall is. And as we're expanding as well, we're going to see that I'm building farms, I'm building infrastructure everywhere we go. So if there's not an eatery around a certain area, I'll put one over there. If there's not warehouse, same thing. But I want every area that I build in to have food, water, storage, education. And that song and dance is going to keep repeating itself over and over again with each new area we build. So I'm just waiting for residential over here, then I'll move holy ground over to here, do it all over again. Continuously checking that I have full engineer coverage and anticipating that we're going to be moving this way as well. Is I'm going to build some engineers out here. Now we've got 2 choices on roads. We've got a straight road like this, or we've got a janky road like this. I don't particularly like janky roads, so I'm going to build right on top of this one. And I'm going to put some water right next to it as well. And our water system, as you can see, is expanding, and we're getting pretty good coverage right across, and it makes it easier to see what spots do I not have water in, and I'm going to put them down in there. Now again, this isn't entirely necessary to have full coverage like this. This is just personal preference. I do like having the entire globe covered with as much water as we can give them. That helps us in all different kinds of aspects as well, whether it be storage, whether it be drinking water accessibility. And maybe I'm putting a little bit more than you have to, but that way these nuggets never have to want for a drink anywhere they go. And sometimes we luck out, sometimes we don't. So at 91% or 90% efficiency, I'm fine with that too, because we have so much water in abundance. Now what we're going to do is continuously upgrade these. I'm only going to upgrade one at a time. Some people wait until winter to upgrade, which I think is a very smart idea. But if I just do one at a time, our water production doesn't get a major hit. If I was to take all 4 of these down and start upgrading at the same time, then this lake would effectively drop to 0 production. And we don't want that, because we want to accumulate as much water as we have, as we can possibly store throughout the year. So as long as I hit 540, I try and aim for in the beginning of the game, sort of 100 or 150 up is a pretty good spot. Anything below that, and you're not going to be able to fill all your drinking water up. As you can see, we're low on drinking water right now because I've produced so many reservoirs in such a short amount of time. So we don't actually have a lot pumping into our reservoirs at this point in time. So what I'm going to do, shift middle mouse button, and I'm going to put another one down, prioritize that over here. Now I'm taking a look at planks and bricks. Planks we're not doing great on, right? I would like to have a 1-to-1, sort of 85. If I have 85 bricks, I'd like 85 planks as well. It's not a hard and fast rule of thumb, but at that point in time, I'm going to back over here, and they've built the ones that we've unpaused. I'm going to check how many nuggets I have, 41. So I can afford to put all 6 into here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3, and then I'm going to do 3 again, and wait for them to naturally kind of grow up. Let's wait until we get a few more nuggets in here. And what we can do as well with that is let's get our Cupidon power out and look at all the single nuggets. So let's get these guys unsingleized. And that should give us a good chunk. I'm not going to try and spend too much CP because we might have to skip this winter. That's just going to help get the water continuously flowing. Even if we have 600 stored, I'd still like to get the stored drinking water up to its maximum peak at 314. Okay, now that we're producing iron, planks, and bricks, I'm going to go back and I'm going to double back. And because we have pretty good points on stuff, what I'm going to do is start unlocking some of the DP, discovery point aspects of it. So that's just going to help us out a little bit. And then we're going to go into stockpiling as well. This is going to be really important because these do not hold any gas. They don't hold any iron. We can't produce more than what a building can hold until we upgrade our storage. So keep that in mind. When you want to start producing iron and gas, you're going to need the upgraded warehouses, because the Stone Age warehouses, the first ones, will not store anything, and you won't be able to produce a lot. So while I'm talking about that, gas is going to be super important for all things, and luckily Mother Planet has an abundance of it. We have 122,000 units of gas on this planet, 54,000 units of oil, lots of stone, a bit of iron. But we're going to be tapping Mother Planet for all her resources throughout this playthrough. And with gas, I'm not very picky about. I'm not looking for the massive areas of it because there's so much around the planet everywhere that eventually we're going to get to it. It's just inevitable. So I'm just going to place one here. Sure, it's got 1,500. That'll be fine. That's going to do good for our start, especially because we haven't upgraded our warehouses yet. So as we float around, we're going to see that things can be upgraded. I'm going to be careful with that, though, at the moment, because I don't want to upgrade and have not enough nuggets to actually utilize all this. So this iron mine, pretty easy to see why it's not getting fixed, because there's no engineers around it. So I put an engineers there, B22 for another water, and that'll give us a good chunk of water over here as well. Find a spot that sort of works for it. They are pretty small buildings, but sometimes the game is picky about where it wants it to be. There we go. I will take that. And then, because it's a work area as well, we have an eatery over here, but we could always afford to put down another eatery. Always stay on top of the prepped food. It's going to help you immensely in the future. If you have enough food for your population, the population is going to grow into the amount of food. Right now, we're rocking at 99 to 48, and we have 99 people. Population 1-to-1 for the food at the moment. I like getting a little more ahead of that, though. So I do have these farms down here, and because I wasn't paying attention, we've already got a cluster of residentials over here. So I'm going to move that holy ground back over this way, and hopefully they start building over here now. Actually, yeah, we got a house here. So as you can see, the holy ground is the major reason where you can spread out pretty fast. In the first 100 years, 90 years or so, we've spread across a large chunk of the map, and we're not contained to anything. We have nuggets everywhere. A good reason for the planet filter as well is you can literally just see every single nugget on your planet as soon as you press the planet filter, and it shows you what their health is. You can use this filter as well if you want to just see your medium percentage nuggets. We can turn it down to here if you want to, and then you can take all these other filters off, and there is one nugget on the planet with medium health. If we take our dead filter on, that's going to show us anywhere where nuggets have died. And if we have good cemetery coverage, then there should be no reason to actually worry about that. And then our sick nuggets as well. It's going to be sick and injured. We don't have any right now, so we're not going to be able to see any. But this planet filter menu is super useful for all kinds of things. You know, if we want to see where our water storage is, boom, it's right there. It's all in front of us. We want to see what's supplied, what's getting water, what's storing water. Electricity, we're going to get to that. All the era is just Stone Age era right now. But if you want to continuously upgrade stuff as you go without having to go through your build menu, you can do it through here. And you can see all your Stone Age buildings at the blink of an eye there. Durability, same thing. This just basically means what your engineer coverage is doing. So we're looking over here and we see that these ones are faltering a bit. And the reason being is that there's only one engineer in this. So it's always a good idea to have two engineers. It's a bunch of different ways to do it, but that's a really quick and fast way to do this. Another little tip as well is if you're seeing a lot of stuff pop up here and it's getting annoying, what you can do is you press escape and you go into your settings and you go into your news section right here and your death messages. You can have old age messages, only the first 100 old age, or no old age deaths. I usually go over here on my message levels as well. Only critical news is really what I need to see. I don't need to see that people are starting families and growing up and having births and stuff. All I need to see is that things are dying. And like if we're getting a wolf attack or something like that, that's going to tell me what's going to pop up. And so I'm going to apply that. And that way, a lot of our indicators right now are going to be silenced. And it kind of makes for, when you see this message, then you're actually paying attention as opposed to just forgetting about it. Because, you know, we get prone to getting used to something, and then you look over and there's like 4 death messages because wolves are attacking, and you weren't really paying attention because you just thought it was another normal message. So now any message I see over here, I know it's going to be critical news because I've assigned it as such. And it's good to see we were getting more workaholics. I'm seeing these more and more as I open up pages. And I'm seeing more educated as I'm opening up pages too, which is fantastic. It's kind of what we want. So right now we don't have a ton of laborers. But as the laborers come in, we're going to keep assigning them to jobs. Going to keep expanding. And we are getting into a winter season. I'm still not pumping enough water here. So what I'm going to do, we got that one prioritized. And an infected zone. Okay. So with this infected zone, all I'm going to do is rejuvenate. I'm not going to take this body away because we don't really need to. But I need to find my cemetery over here, which I'm going to do B12. And as we can see, there's a massive area here that I missed. So I'm going to build a cemetery within reason over here. That works perfect right there. And so I don't forget, I'm going to build the next one over here. So we're going to have a bit more coverage as the city expands down this way. And with that cemetery, they're going to need places to eat. They're going to need places to drink. It's just another spot to work. They're going to need storage. You're going to need water. And we'll keep building out our water system this way. So I'll build one there, and then I'll build another one right next to that cemetery. There. Okay, and then we're going to find Malako. He's probably headed to the hospital, or she's probably headed to the hospital. She's getting cured herself. There you go. All done. Witch doctor did his job. We're going to upgrade the hospital like a pat on the back. Now that we've unlocked the next warehouse upgrade, I'm going to start right at the home center there. Noticing that we don't have a lot of stuff in here right now, but that's fine because I'm going to upgrade these so we can start storing iron and gas. It's going to be kind of important to actually get an accumulated amount of this because right now the only thing that can store is the iron mine itself. So that's going to be my first order of operations of how to upgrade things. We're going to get to the warehouses first. That way we can store all kinds of different materials. And then we're going to get to farms. I'm not going to overwhelm them with things right now. We're pushing them pretty hard just to get out to the edges of our starting spot of the map here. And I'm always checking where my engineer coverage is. I want to have full coverage right across the planet. I want my water to have full coverage too. So we keep building all the things that we possibly can. This is a crappy road, but at least it's something. I'm just going to put one right behind a farm. And maybe I can put it on a reasonable road. Not really. That's kind of the way the cookie crumbles sometimes there. It's just some of these roads are just never going to be nice no matter how much we want them to be. Can I do 100% efficiency on that? Why not? There we go. So that will give us our engineer coverage right across. Very solid. Our cemetery coverage, pretty solid as well. And always looking out in advance of where we're going to need it next. So we will be expanding this way. So I'm going to put a cemetery there, an engineer's hut. That kind of covers as much as we can over here. More water. Let's get some water over in this area right here. And more food. More food and more storage. And the upgraded storage is great for this. So I think I'm going to put storage right here. And we're going to let them build out to that as well. They should be building houses here momentarily. So with that being said, we are producing all the resources we need in order to carry on with upgrades. So I'm going to get all the upgraded cemeteries and eateries, and I'm going to head over to medical diagnosis, which gives us plus 5 years to the Nuggets lifespan as well. It's going to help us a little bit. So as all that's being built, I'm just going to wait for that. I'm not going to overwhelm them with a ton of projects at a time. We do have a lot of things on the go on each sort of point on our city. So I'm going to let them chill. I'm not going to place anything down. I'm just going to do a bit of research, let them build what they need to build, and then we'll carry on. Always keeping an eye on the food as well. If food gets low, I'm just going to go over to the lake. I'm going to be a little cheap about it, but I'm going to grab a whale. And I could plop it right into a warehouse, and that's going to add us 80 food there. Generally, I try not to. I want to keep as much wildlife as I can on the planet there. But sometimes it's just a nice little pick-me-up sort of thing when we're upgrading other things. So right now, I'll start with one farm in each area. That way I'm not killing off all my farming all at the same time. And we'll wait for those ones to be built. And then we'll get the other ones upgraded. And hopefully, as we upgrade, we start getting a pretty decent production going on. Okay, so we've reached our first 100 years. And, you know, you can play this game any way you want to, obviously. But the way I kind of like to see it is I use this 100-year marker to see where I'm at, what am I producing, and what I would like to see in my games generally is at least over 100 nuggets, having close to half of them educated. I'd like to see I have a surplus of the basic materials, which is wood, stone, planks, bricks, and herbs. We start accumulating iron, oil, gas, and glass. So at this point in time, we got our gas factory going as well, and a gas mine. I'm going to assign a few here. Doesn't really matter if they're educated or not. It's all about production value here. And that's going to be a good landmark for your first 100 years. We'll continue on with this tutorial. Years 100 to 200 coming up next.